the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to the folks at home. This gentleman sitting up here is not Justin. His name is Charlie Frankel, and he's taking Justin's place tonight, coming, of course, from the same company.
Welcome. Thank you.
So, Gary, don't get it confused. It's not Justin.
I'm not.
All right?
I almost thought it sounded fire, Justin. Then you just cleared everything up with that statement, so we're good.
We have a very short agenda, so I'll ask, is there any public comment on the agenda? Anybody on the agenda? No? Okay, well, the meeting's going to be short, so we'll have time later on if anybody decides on something. I have the minutes of the June the 9th meeting. I have a motion to accept.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Carried, thank you. I don't know if our attorney has the agenda, but give him that one. Here we go. Communications, I don't have anything in particular. We did send a certified letter to the tower company, and we received notice back that they got it by certified mail. That was American Tower. That's our Putnam Valley Tower that we decided that, matter of fact, I might as well read the letter. It's short enough. I'm writing to terminate the above reference license agreement with the town of Highlands. It was recently brought to my attention by emergency service providers that the site is no longer compatible with or useful to our team of first responders. We appreciate that. We will be responsible to remove our equipment if requested. Thank you for your courtesies and consideration. That's the letter we sent out to them. We haven't got an answer back. We don't know if we're trapped in a contract or not, but we'll find out. We'll let the attorneys hash it out and work it out. Financial reports this morning. That's why it's not on your agenda. Not on your agenda. I transferred $109,022 from the consolidated account to the paying account to cover this week's check run. Big items are MVP healthcare for July 2025, $47,196. Rockland County Solid Waste for haulage, $16,167. TAM Enterprise for service to the sewer plant, $8,560. Office of the State Comptroller for court fines and fees, $7,006. And Denali Water Solutions for tipping fees, $5,385. Now, just as a note, Mr. Sullivan, Councilman Sullivan, he also signs these vouchers that are for the sewer plant and for Denali. So he signs them, I sign them, and Kelly signs them. So they're pretty much right. But do I have any questions from the board? No. Okay.
No.
Liaison reports. We'll start with Councilwoman Sporber.
Well, thank you. Let's see, we were Juneteenth. There was a lot that happened over the weekend. Ceremonies were great. The United Youth, the Family Day was great. It was all very hot. and then and then Hope Rocks, all great events. Friday, we were, a couple of us, actually, with the exception of Joe, 3 of us were at the AOG for their Hudson Valley Program Developers Conference. Alina was there as well, and Peter and Jen, right? And the mayor had been with them earlier in the day, had taken them when they were doing a tour. So in order to encourage folks to bid on the development for properties that they own, that's what was driving this. And we got to see some more details. Specifically, we were all kind of drawn to what's going to hopefully soon anchor the corner where Shades was. Actually, that whole corner, Shades Park, right down to Gracie Market, and to the 2 properties that are behind it. We'll see. There's a little more on that. We'll see how that goes. But it was really interesting. It's not tomorrow, but it's, hopefully they can get this particular project going and see what that does with the rest of development and revitalization of Main Street. Kind of tied to that, they were also, Hudson Valley Program, along with the architect for that particular project, was here at the Planning Board, Consolidated Planning Board, met on Thursday the 19th. And that was pretty much what was discussed. There was one item about a permit after the fact for an erosion control plan up on Canterbury Road. And then they put off extension for approvals, current approvals in the planning board for 479 Main Street and 341 Main Street, the other properties that are there that still, there's not much going on with them, but they're going to vote on whether to extend them or not formally next month. So zoning board was on Wednesday night. I was not at that meeting, but they said it was, Jack Janrone said that it was fairly, that they should all be that simple. There were 2 folks who were asking for variances. One was the Mormon Stake Center meeting house that is down there at the old Nicole's, right down there by the high school, about putting a sign. And so there was a public hearing about that, and there was no objection to that, so that moves on. And for an addition to a home on 34 Rose Drive. And that was, that variance was granted as well, because there was no comment during the public hearing. I don't have an ambulance report yet. That should be at the next meeting. I'll have that for May's stats. But what I do know is that they got the other part of the grant was approved, right? We saw that in email. So I think it's Senator Skoufis that had the 250, I may have this wrong, had the 250,000 for the ambulance itself, and then there was another grant that was given, I believe, by Assemblyman Ekus to outfit that same ambulance. So I think that's everything that I have, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Councilman.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody. Pretty quiet for me. I was away this weekend and I missed, but I heard everything with the Family Fun Day and the Hope Rocks event were all very good. And then thank you, Nancy, for filling in on the thing with the AOG.
That Tuesday when we went.
I'm getting that. Listen. Olga Anderson and Nancy and I, this past week, attended another disaster preparedness seminar that was based on flooding, but we got some good information out of it. One of the speakers there, I just got an email from her this morning, providing us a template for us to work on. Again, it's our community in the volunteerism and the way people came together, again, as you hear us talking about July 9th, really made things work, but we still trying to, put a play-by-play plan together and just to tighten things up. We had a little hiccup this morning talking about cooling centers and what was available and what was not. after a few rounds of texting and a couple of phone calls, I think, we found out that there was a senior center was occupied with a voting session today.
Setting up for tomorrow.
Setting up for tomorrow, right? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So, but again, we're getting through these, trying to put a program together that gets us through the hiccups of next time. Again, it's not about will, but when the next event will hit our communities. So we're working on that, and thank you, Olga, for always bringing this to our attention. It was a good day. On a other note, Pat Ryan's office had an announcement out. They have a thing called the, let me just get it right, the Art Cares Van. They do a Cares Van, and they're showing up at different events around the county over the course of the summer. And it's a great way to meet the constituents, to meet with Pat Ryan. They will also address issues regarding Social Security, VA benefits, IRS issues, anything that you would have like to discuss with Pat Ryan's team. You could go to their website, look for the events. One of the few that are coming up soon is on Tuesday, July 1st from 10 to 2 p.m. at the Health Orange Farmers Market on Broadway in Newburgh. The Florida's Farmer Market on July 8th, they will also be at that. Like I said, there's a list of many places they'll be going, but it's a great way. If you got questions that you want to put towards Pat Ryan, you can go there in person. What's that?
Are they coming to Highland Falls?
Nope.
Cornwall is the closest.
Cornwall is the closest, and that's coming up in, there's
I think
Otisville.
they need directions to get here. They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we can help.
Well, they try to get, they don't go to every town, but they go to towns, give them credit. So Cornwall's not a bad drive. What's that?
Big heart.
Yeah, I know, big heart. Me, the softie. Anyway, that's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. I attended the Juneteenth ceremony, and at the end of the ceremony, nice. I bet that shook
was.
everybody. Everybody's home awake now. I was presented with a plaque for the town of Highlands, and the Councilman Tyrone King Juneteenth Community Award is presented to the town of Highlands for your outstanding contributions to the Juneteenth celebrations over the past 10 years. So we received this here.
Great job.
And now you can tell us a little bit more about what happened.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and good evening, everyone at home. So, Juneteenth. For those who are not aware of the history of Juneteenth, we're talking about a now national holiday that signifies the end of slavery by those known as African Americans here in America. So proclamation, the Emancipation Proclamation was what, 1863? And so this bastion of people down in Galveston was still enslaved till 1865. 2 years later, they got the word that they were now free. But it wasn't that somebody called them up or texted them and said, you're now free, and they took off and did a Juneteenth ceremony. It was the Union soldiers led by General Granger who were dispatched to go out there and inform them and then make sure that they were free. So a lot of layers to that. So here in New York, growing up, I didn't know anything about Juneteenth. I don't know, there's two of my classmates on that side and one a little older than us. Did you guys hear about Juneteenth?
Not till.
What I thought was, not to interrupt you, but what I thought was interesting is General Granger.
Yes, from New York.
And from New York.
I learned that then. I didn't know this. So General Granger, the one who went out there and led that charge and got the folks freed, was actually a West Point graduate.
1845, yep.
And he was from New York. So I had a special love for General Granger after that. I didn't know anything about that, so I learned that from the guest speaker that we had, which was Colonel retired Hicks McGowan, who was the former G1 over at West Point, was our keynote speaker. So back to the history though. So then here I come out of the Army in 2014. In July I got back home from Germany. but I think it was around January or February, we had a tragic loss here in the community of a veteran who had been born and raised here, a young lady who was an employee over at West Point named Laura Lanier. Happened to be the best friend of my sister. But she, while she was in the military, was stationed out in Texas, had learned about Juneteenth out there because that's where it originated. And then when she transitioned out to civilian life, came back home, she came back with the good news that there's a thing called Juneteenth. Now, this was around 2003. Wasn't received very well from what I hear. And I peel back the onion. People like to say Juneteenth is great right now, but they was like, what are you talking about to her back then? So she had a little bit of a challenge to try to get this message out. So I hear about this when I come back home, and I see my sister lamenting over her best friend is now dead suddenly, and it kind of put something on my brain. I woke up one morning and said, I can't let this veteran just pass in vain. Let me learn about this Juneteenth thing. And I start Googling, where in the world is Juneteenth celebrated? And to my surprise, Highland Falls, New York pops up. So Laura had did the legwork to at least get it documented that when she was here, St. Mark's Church is where she had the first display at. I said, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna make this thing big, and I'm gonna name the first one Laura Lanier Juneteenth Celebration, and now the people are gonna have to say her name. So we started out with Roe Park. We had a Grammy two-time nominee, a Tony Award winner named Melba Moore perform at Roe Park. That was 2016, right? And so we've consistently since that time done it every year, to include when COVID hit us. We couldn't march, we couldn't be out in public, but what we did is a Zoom. And we had a keynote speaker that came from Texas that year on Zoom. We had a whole big bunch of people on there from Zoom. So we kept that streak alive. And then we hit our 10-year mark. So that I thought it was fitting that the town who led the way before it was popular, right? It's popular now, right? Everybody got Juneteenth t-shirts and everything, and everybody's Juneteenth out. But back then, the town said, roger that, councilmen, go forward. They supported me to the point we had Bill Etzel sitting right here. Said we should do something for Juneteenth, and we passed a budget to be able to do something similar to 4th of July. Now, this is not a national holiday at that time. I joined, after that, the national movement to make it a holiday. I was part of the committee. Our flag raising ceremony that we do was so good that the president of that national committee made our ceremony the model for everybody around the country, how we raise the flag and we do all that ceremonial stuff. So that's why I thought it was fitting to present this to the town to mark in history what has occurred over the last 10 years. Supervisor, board, community, thank you all for being on this journey together. I think we've made history. It was Pat Ryan, our congressman, who came here 2 years ago and marched in the parade, said it was the best one in the Hudson Valley. So I'm not making it up. So with that being said, thank you. And now I'll transition into something equally as historic, not as epic just yet, but it's coming. We have concluded our pilot program for the adult coloring program at the library. That seed was planted, it was nurtured, thanks to my colleague on the village board, Trustee Olivia, her family. We were out there diligently every week for 5 straight weeks, and the community loved it, and they've asked us to come back. And the comments were that it's relaxing, it helps relieve their stress, their anxiety. We got seniors coming out up to 90 years old. We got kids from 17 years old, multi-generational. And I'm telling you, it's been a good experience, to the point where now the library has asked us to come back. And the town and the village says they want to see it. So we're going to start back up, according to the director of the library, Ms. Stacy Falk, on July 11th. We're going to go another series of 4 weeks. Adult coloring from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We call it adult coloring, but it's really open to all and to the public, but the target audience was those senior citizens who's sitting up in the house as we speak. Probably a good day today to sit in the house today, but normally they're there. Some of them are lonely, some of them are have food insecurities and have some things that we as a town, if we know about, maybe we can help with. So that's a good news story. So we're back in action July 11th, and I'll conclude with, yes, It is officially a heat wave that we are dealing with, if you haven't figured it out. The heat index says it's over 100 degrees. I couldn't believe that I hibernated in the house all day to come out to the meeting, and it's still 98 degrees. I thought I had dodged it. It's still 98 degrees at 6 p.m. So this weather will hurt you. Those of us who've served in the military, particularly those who have been in that Middle East environment, we know that this weather will hurt you. So there's ways to mitigate that. 1, stay hydrated. 2, stay in the house if you don't have to come out, and especially if you have air condition. 3, if you don't have air condition and you're out in the exposed area for too long, get to a cooling center, which now has been designated during the daytime as the library, the town hall here, and in emergency situations, we have some other facilities that we can activate if we need to go beyond the normal business hours. Feel free to contact me directly if you're in your home or you're having some breakdown of your electric system. We had to deal with this a few years ago where I had to get, what do you call it, dry ice? Remember that?
Yep.
That was the operation. Power went out.
There were some people out for 2 or 3 days during that.
Right. So we had a whole operation to get dry ice in there. So we've been here before. Good news is today we didn't get any reports of any casualties, thank God, or anybody having any significant issues. But the town board collectively, I believe the village as well, was engaged. I saw the mayor out and one of the board members out and doing their thing. So I think, folks, you could take heed and be confident that your town and village leadership is all over this issue. And if you need us, feel free to call us. Subject to your questions, that's all I have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Sullivan.
Thank you. So, between all of us today, I don't know if Bob was in it, it took about 15 minutes texting each other to figure out the cooling center. We didn't know that the senior center is primary day tomorrow, so they're setting up for it. I was in town hall this afternoon. I can tell you they were all nice and comfortable up here. I don't think they had anybody in here, but it was available for cooling, and it will be tomorrow also, and Wednesday, and whoever else Loans is going to work. So just a few minutes of communicating with each other, and we got it all worked out. I thought that was a pretty good accomplishment there.
Hey, Kurt Hahn called too. He was in the loop, yeah.
Okay.
Just so you know, Vinny.
No, I'm just going to the text thread that we had amongst the town board members to try and get.
Well, that's
the ball
good to
rolling.
know. Thank you for sharing that.
Yep. Okay, so water, on the water. Last meeting, I reported the average use of 71,000 gallons per day, and that our new 185,000 gallon tank was almost in use. The tank as-built drawings and process flow diagram are forthcoming. It is in full use, and for punch list items, the town has a retainer of almost $100,000. Nobody's gonna get that until everything we're looking for is resolved. It's operational, there's a couple of glitches, but overall, it was a very good project and it's online. I see Glycerin Hollow is still flowing. I don't know for sure. Bog Meadow is full. They don't usually open Bog Meadow until Glycerin Hollow runs low, which is intelligent. So Bog Meadow is full, which led the village the opportunity to flush all their hydrants for the second time in the last 3 months. Last week they did that. I think that was a prudent move. They had the water to do it, and they did. In looking at our ion water, we usually use 71,000 gallons per day on average. There were a couple of days I saw recently where we hit 115,000 gallons, 95,000 gallons. And looking at the accounts, I would say it's people filling their swimming pools, which is okay for now. But that's not something that should be a habit as time goes on. I keep track of this stuff. We have drought, deluge, 1 year after another. Last year was a severe drought. The year before that was a severe deluge. The year before that was a drought. So right now we're in a deluge. There's plenty of water at the moment. I would say fill your pools and be intelligent as we get into the summer with the use of water. In the sewer, I was down at the plant today. They are now chlorinating and dechlorinating as required by law from April to October. The chlorination system required some tender loving care from TAM, which came and made some repairs. We've had an aeration and blower motor go bad down there. That costs a bit of money. And today in the sludge building, which is hot, the fan was not functioning to ventilate it. So Jimmy has a fan hung from the ceiling, cooling down some of the electrical equipment on there. I don't know if that fan was repaired when they were working on it when I left, you know. So they had that issue. When it's this hot, that electrical equipment gets boiling hot, and they have the doors open, they're doing what they can, but it's difficult when it's this hot, you know. The system overall down there is operating handsomely. People have events down at Mine Dock Park. I've heard nobody complain about odor for a couple of years now. They have it running pretty well, and the grit and all that other stuff, we've resolved all that. So I'm happy to report that the sewer plant is running like a fine-tuned watch. The DPW, we have something on the agenda that I'll discuss a little bit later on. So I don't know how many times the cemeteries have been cut yet. Tiffany was out last week. She had something in her family, and she's gonna get that to me soon. Last year, I think we did 12 or 13 cuts. We've had a lot of rain. I believe we might be at 4 or 5. I'm not sure, but still plenty of cuts left before we're contractually in any type of trouble. We spend a lot of time dealing with sanitation, and I'm going to just kind of paraphrase this, that when we went over some of these things, there were previously 69 dumpster accounts between the village and the town. 20 were in the town, 49 were in the village. There were 23 accounts by her work added to that. So what I'm going to lead into is one of those accounts, or a couple of them, may be subject to some of the convoluted, abstruse laws on the village books. And in reviewing, there's one law, which is sanitation regulation number 8, which has 2 parts to it. So we depend upon the village, their code, to enforce the things we do in the building department, which is joint, and with sanitation DPW. We've met a ton of times, and I've given the village a whole bunch of information on daycare centers, not being listed in the code as a permitted use and whatnot. So we've met a bunch of times, and all I'm asking is that not be dead. There's a lot of things that had to be changed in the village code, and I've brought some of those up for us to be able to move forward with this stuff. The village code is entirely different than the town code. Your solid waste code is 194. Ours is different. So it's one set of rules in Fort Montgomery, and it's one set of rules in Highland Falls, and we're trying to make it all work. And I just wanted to say, our foreman, Rick Jersey, has been a foreman for more than a year now. I talked to Kelly today about this. I think he's kind of hoping to be moved off probation. I don't think we have to act on it. I think she has to contact the county to let them know that year has passed. So I think he's fine, and I told him it's a thing with Diva and the county to move that forward. With the building department, last meeting, we mentioned that we terminated our previous part-time code officer and hired a person who will be starting in mid-August. So while it's busy, Philip is keeping in step. I instructed him to temporarily put the fire inspections on the back burner. They are up to date, and we will get back on those after we have the new part-time code enforcement officer starting in August. Last meeting, I read off the May statistics. The building department has recently been rendered some pretty intense FOIL requests. They're being addressed, and I would like to thank the mayor and the Village of Highland Falls for posting on their website that there is a village landlord registry law. At the moment, I think there's one person registered on it, and I would like to give Gabrielle a bit of a pat on the back. On her own, she came up with 339 obvious parcels that should be subject to that. We all know the Village of Highland Falls is more than 50% not owner-occupied, meaning in my mind, there's probably 1,000 rental properties. Just because it's single family doesn't mean it's exempt. If the owner doesn't live there, then it's subject to it. Once we get that in motion, once a year, I believe the building inspector would be required or allowed to go there and do a fire inspection. That will greatly help, not that we want to get into people's business, buildings, but if you want to know what's going on in an apartment, if the landlord registry is followed, that will help with that. That law has existed since 2009, and I think in the beginning I looked, there was 110 for a couple of years signed up for it. I think 2 years ago there were 3, and I think right now there's 1 signed up for it. So just making people aware of it. I don't know who does what next. If we use Gabby's list to work off of, I think the village should look at it and give us some criteria, what list we begin with to try and get people to come register, aside from them hearing us and volunteering to do it. In the building department during the daytime from 8 until 4, I think she's there until 4:30 in the afternoon. So that's it for the building department. With the planning board.
Richie, before you, on the landlord registry, is that village only?
I'm just
or
talking
town
about the
and
village.
Okay. Does the
We
town
have a lot
one?
of work to do with currently 1 building inspector. It's different down in Fort Montgomery. There's not nearly anything close to the magnitude of what's going on in the village.
But I mean, are they required in Fort Montgomery to register?
They are,
Oh,
okay?
okay.
It's an entirely different law right behind it, but there is a landlord registry law down there too. I don't think there's 50% not owner occupied down there. It's a little bit different than Highlands.
Yeah, right, okay,
You know,
that's fine.
So I'm not trying to like favor one place. The village is 80% of the building department's work, so I'm trying to get that ball
I was
rolling.
just curious.
Yeah. Nancy talked about the planning board. All the village board members were there except the mayor. Nancy was there, I was there and whatnot. So I'm not going to talk about the planning because Nancy did that. What I am going to talk about is the chairman, Eric Smith. I was on that board up until 2008. Asked me to let people know certain things. So this is going to be for the town, not for the village. And activities requiring a permit pertaining to soil erosion. So I'm just gonna read off a couple. You have to bear with me because the law exists. People don't know it exists. If they get in trouble because they did something they don't know about, they can at least say Richie Sullivan told you about it at a town board meeting, all right? So, none of the following activities shall be commenced until a permit has been issued from the planning board under the provisions of this chapter. Site preparation in the subdivision of land into 2 or more parcels. Site preparation within waterlands, not wetlands, it says waterlands. Site preparations on slopes which exceed 1.5 feet of vertical rise to 10 feet of horizontal distance. Site preparation within the 100-year floodplain of any watercourse. Excavation which affects more than 200 cubic yards of material. That's not importing or exporting, that's affecting it, okay? On any parcel. Stripping which affects more than 20,000 square feet of ground surface within any parcel or any contiguous area. Grading which affects more than 20,000 square feet of surface within any parcel or any contiguous area. Filling, which exceeds a total of 100 cubic yards. You got that? 100 cubic yards of material within any parcel or contiguous area. I'm going to talk back on that in a minute. Site preparation pursuant to a special exception permit issued by the planning board. It's either permitted, not permitted, or it's a special exception. That just means it goes to the planning board. Doesn't mean we're giving anybody gold treatment. On all properties, the removal or destruction of more than 3 trees, 10 inches in diameter breast height or over during any period of 12 months, or any 1 tree greater than 30 inches in diameter breast height. I have the village code on here. Their tree law doesn't mention any of that. I'm talking about for the town. So if you're gonna cut trees down, and it's a large number of them, be aware that's something you go see Phil, and he'll send you to the planning board to get you started. So I could read on a bunch more. I think everybody's probably getting tired of hearing them. I have read on these before. So the erosion control law, you won't see it listed on the walls, you won't see it in the newspaper. It exists. I've told you about it. If you're gonna cut a tree or do any filling, you can check with the building department. And also at that meeting I mentioned, there was someone that mentioned that if somebody dumps an extra 5 yards or something like that, there should be an extra fine. We don't want to live like that. We want people to be able to live with their property and do as much as they can. However, there's people that will abuse it. So 100 yards is about 7 or 8 dump truck loads loads, I assure you, if you get more than 2 on your property, someone's probably going to call the police on you at that point in time. So I don't want to make it any more stringent than it is, but it exists. And Eric asked me to let people know about that, which I hope that I have. Now, let me go back to a couple more little things I had in my report, if I can find it. Events. So, Ty, that ceremony was wonderful. Was the Colonel's name Colonel McGowan, your keynote speaker? So she has a son who's going to take over for Colin Monahan, who's going to the prep school up there.
That's right.
Look forward to him becoming an Eagle Scout. You had the NAACP president regionally was speaking, very well spoken. You had a member of the Buffalo Soldiers that was very eloquently speaking. I learned a lot. It was a good ceremony, and you've made the holiday mean something to people. And I thought the thing about General Granger was very interesting. I didn't know he was a West Point grad. Never knew who he was before the other day. So very good on that. I went to that, but I did not go to anything else because I'm a member of the Fort Montgomery Battle Site. We had a thing down there at 1 o'clock. We have this couple from Yorktown that comes and they reenact certain functions. And they talked about her being enslaved to a guy named Robert Townsend, not Peter Townsend. He's the guy that owned the Sterling Mine that made the chain that went across the Hudson. And there's more, it's on Facebook. I don't have them all listed here to tell you. I think this weekend the Stony Point Battlefield is having a reenactment. These are great events, and the battle site in Fort Montgomery is being used heavily, and it's a good time on a weekend to go down and see their Saturday events, which they do just about every Saturday. I'm going to the high school graduation tomorrow night, Bob, as you asked me to.
Tomorrow, Wednesday.
I'm almost done. The Fort Montgomery Fire Department installation dinner, I just want to thank, I didn't go, but I wanted to just recognize their officers. Richie Salva is the chief. Tommy Armstrong, young Tommy Armstrong is the assistant chief. The captain is our own Matty Beal. They have Matthew McHugh is one of their lieutenants, and Eric Jimenez is the other one. And their administrative president is Mr. Joe Mazaris, who's also on our police force. And my final thing is I do a lot of hiking. I go up to the Torrent a lot. And when I go to the Torrent in the parking area, on occasion, well, on a lot of occasions, there are people that will leave debris around, and that annoys a lot of people about that. So I talked to the chief about this a little bit. If somebody sees that, that's not something you can take a photograph and send it to someone. They would need to call whatever your non-emergency number is, or Bear Mountains, because I think some of that's their property, in order for that to be addressed. So I just want to let people know there is a little problem with people dropping garbage up there, and if you want it rectified, make a phone call. I don't know your non-emergency number, but that would be where they would have to call, correct? Not a 911 call, not for that.
Call 911 and 911 will dispatch our officers. So
Okay.
if that's the easiest thing for people
Okay.
to remember because it's in their brains,
Okay.
it's completely fine.
Okay. I would not call 911 unless a Tyrannosaurus Rex were about to swallow me, so, well, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Chief, do you have anything?
I don't.
I got a question. Is the Oakdale High School graduation tomorrow or Wednesday?
I have it down as tomorrow night.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow, myself.
8th grade is tonight. I know that for a
They are
fact.
tonight?
Yeah.
So Evelyn sent me a note says Wednesday graduation.
Tomorrow.
You have it tomorrow too? All right, so I just want to correct her. Second thing is, quickly, I wanted to say, she said the Center's men's group for tomorrow is not happening. They do a Center's men's group. It's not happening due to heat.
Okay.
So due to the heat tomorrow, they will not have the Center's men's group. And finally, thank you to all the volunteers and the first responders. Chief was out there, the Highland Falls Police was out there, Frank Lelos was out there. Thank you to all those folks for a huge success for Juneteenth 2025. That's it.
The only thing I have is probation. As you were talking about probation, Richie, my fault, I'll take 100% blame for this. We're not doing probation right, not the way it is supposed to be doing. We no problem putting people on probation. We hired a chief, we put him on 1 year probation, what have you. But we need to get a recommendation from their department head to take them off of probation once they've completed the year or whatever.
No problem.
And then once we get that recommendation, then the board will vote and take so-and-so off of probation. We used to do that years ago. Somehow it's just slipped through the cracks, and we need to start doing that again. So I'm going to talk to Kelly about it. We're going to notify the department heads, and they'll start the ball going by telling us that Ricky Jersey
Yep. We'll
has
take
done a
care of
good
him
job.
next meeting then. We'll get the ball rolling and
Yeah.
take care of them next meeting.
Yeah. Am I, to our attorney, am I right by that now, what I'm saying on the probation part? That we really have to bring it up in the meeting and vote to take somebody off of probation?
I don't want to speak for Justin, but it sounds right to me.
Okay, all right. General business, I need a motion to, table the intermunicipal agreement with Woodbury and Highlands for approximately 4 to 6 months.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Sanitation fees. The owner of a piece of property on Center Street felt as though that they shouldn't be charged as a dumpster fee because they don't have the required amount of cans. So I sent this off to our attorney, and he agrees 100%. I have had a chance to review the below request, as well as the village's solid waste code and regulations. In fact, this unit, or this property has 4 units and has 2 cans, and it would appear they meet the regulations and would not have to pay a dumpster fee. If they put additional units in, or if they need a 3rd can, then they would be subject to the dumpster fee. Any comment?
I'll make the motion to what's the word you're looking for? Exonerate that property from the fee. Just remember what I said, the village needs to look at their code, but I'll
Yes.
make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. I'll notify the clerk. Let's see, okay, public comment, anybody? Olga, you ain't been to a meeting in a long time, you got nothing?
We got Thanksgiving cooking.
Okay, all right. Anybody else, anything? I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Somehow you become famous.